All right, welcome to technically week one of the Jedi Circle lecture series. And this week we're probably going to have two episodes. The reason we're going to have two is because last week I was out of town and could not get on to actually continue forward. Great start, by the way. That was awesome. So we're going to continue on. There'll be another episode again tonight. So 2 videos in 1 week. Lucky you. Mostly, so we're starting off with the misconceptions of the Jedi Circle, and obviously, due to the title of the video, we are covering Star Wars as a misconception. Most people, when they think of Star Wars, tend to have an idea of what the Jedi are. Certain things come to mind. Everybody has their own things that kind of draw them to the Jedi as well. But the question is, how much does the Jedi from Star Wars actually influence the Jedi lifestyle or the Jedi path that we follow in our everyday lives? And it really does vary. There's some things that we do hold to, and there are some things we don't. It's pretty easy to answer. What we hold on to and what we don't is an accumulation of over 20 years of trial and error, basically. There have been people who have been, trying to live as a Jedi in their everyday life since 1977. And of course, there's many influences that George Lucas drew from, that people look to kind of fill in the holes, or especially back then, since there wasn't much outside of the movies or the novelization of the movie. I guess there was a couple comic books, I think, as well. But the point being that they went to those original sources that George Lucas was inspired from and kind of filled in the holes to make sure that what they were following could be applied in everyday life. And more importantly, not just applied, but applied in a positive and beneficial way. That is the kind of underlying message that's always there, but tends to go unsaid. We live our lives as Jedi, but we do so in a positive and beneficial manner. If we're not, if it's something that we're living by, but it's actually detrimental to our lives, or it's harming our lives, or it's kind of harming ourselves, or that's not a good thing, and that is not something that should be emulated, right? No matter how much of a fan you are, right? So it's important that what we are putting forth and what we are living by is not only applicable, but is applicable in a way that moves us forward in a positive manner. We definitely want things that provide benefit. We want to improve. We want to be better, and we want the world around us to be better. We want the people around us to be better. We want this to be something that allows people to grow in a good way. So that's important. So what do we use? What processes are there? How attached are we? When you think of Jedi, you might be thinking of this, or you might be thinking of force powers, or you might be thinking of meditating in the woods, and getting away from it all, and kind of just getting your enlightenment on. Or maybe battling the dark side, fighting the evil Sith, adventure, excitement. A Jedi craves not these things. Well, we kind of do. It's part of the thing that draws us to it. But whatever you're really looking for, whatever drew you to it, those things are inspirations, and they are the starting point. They're what we look at, and then we grow from there. So meditation, absolutely. But meditation, if you're meditating for 6 hours in your room, you may gain some benefit out of that. But what are you doing really? If you're spending 8 hours of your day staring at a pencil, trying to move it with your mind, maybe you will succeed in time. But during that time, how much is being lost, and what things could you be doing? It's about time management. It's about priorities, and it's about living your life in a way that is Jedi. So on one of the other videos, we do Coffee with the Jedi, and someone from the Temple of the Jedi Order, Alexander, talked about that when he was teaching, students called him, a Jedi Master, and not because he kind of advertised what he, was doing or what his focus was. It just kind of came through. That's what he reminded people of, and and that's kind of what happens when you live, the Jedi way, is that it kind of comes through. And you want to be out there, and you want to be engaged, and you want to be involved. Removing yourself completely, sometimes that is necessary. Sometimes you do need to get solitude and get some time alone to kind of just like clear your head, really get reflective, figure out who you are, what you want, kind of remove all outside voices except your own, turning off the phone, turning off the computer, not listening to any outside noise, but figuring out yourself and the path you truly want to walk. All these things are related to the Jedi, and certainly situations that are portrayed in various Star Wars media through the fictional Jedi Knights. But we aren't going to put on robes and go be vigilantes. We're not going to go be superheroes, right? You're not going to pick up your lightsaber, no matter how durable it is. I don't care that you spent the extra money on Saber Forge and got the tough lightsaber. You're not going to go out there and try to fight crime with it. And if that's like something you were thinking about, don't do it. It's bad juju all around for multiple reasons. And if you're wondering what those are, we can get into it later. Point being that it's not all force power robes and lightsabers. These things are fun. These things we can use in our training, right? You can use lightsaber training, lightsaber combat training, as a way to stay physically active and a way to stay physically fit. You can, it fits in with martial application. You can work on unarmed Jedi forms for martial application. And again, kind of as your 30 to 60 minutes of physical exercise or something of that nature to continue to uphold the idea of physical well-being, but that's kind of where you're not going to be fighting Sith. I mean, that's just not that's just not where we are at. That is not the reality of being a Jedi Knight. I am sorry. It is not all adventure, but certainly there can be excitement and certainly there can be fun, but it just takes a different form. Jedi robes, great to have. You can have them on Halloween, wonderful. But if you look at the 501st is a great example. On the reverse side, right? The flip side, you put on the costume and you can go do good things. You can raise money. You can do charity events. Using that iconic imagery to fulfill the other areas, such as the 5 goals of the Jedi, and kind of doing public service and things like that with that Star Wars imagery. So it definitely has a place. It's definitely fun. And when you get up, it's usually an ordeal, right? Jedi robes are like, they tend to have a couple different layers. You don't just get dressed really quick as a Jedi. It tends to be take a little time. And in that can be kind of a meditation, almost get you in a mindset itself. And it's why at certain Jedi gatherings, some people like to wear the fancy Jedi robes for formal ceremonies, like recognitions or awards or knighthoods. And the reason is because it gets them into that mindset. It kind of, as they're putting on the robes and, straightening them out and getting the belt on and the boots and all that, it really just connects them to what inspired them to be Jedi in the first place. So again, time, place, it's all wonderful and you can use it. But we're not going to be walking around in that. Anybody who's worn Jedi robes, I'm telling you, functionality in everyday life, it just does not really work, at least in my experience. It is not something that you want to wear around while you're going grocery shopping, or when you're if you're working a physically active job. It's not something you're really want to put on and go through. No. So again, the idea though of the Jedi robes, when you look at I think it's the Visual Dictionary, and what it talks about the Jedi robes is that they were meant to blend in with daily society. They were meant to blend in with the travelers of the galaxy. The robes are meant to be humble garments. That's why Desert Hermit Obi-Wan basically is still wearing Jedi robes almost in A New Hope. And it's similar to what he's wearing as he's running around the galaxy in the prequels. These are they're meant to kind of fulfill a role. They're meant to be everyday clothes in the Star Wars universe. So you take that idea and you apply it to everyday life. So what you wear, your school uniform can be your Jedi robes. Your work uniform can be your Jedi robes, right? It's what you put on to humble yourself and remember that we are all connected and we are all part of the world, not above or anyone else. We are all just kind of living this life and trying to do the best we can. And you wear your everyday clothes to go with that, to blend in with that concept and idea. You're not looking to stand out. You can, many Jedi do have things that they still wear, like maybe a Chicago Jedi and California Jedi tend to have like little pins, or badges. Myself have a Jedi Living logo on my ring there. So there's little things that you can do. There's shirts. Jedi Realist Radio is quite famous for their logo shirts that they like to wear around. And so you can do little things like that, but they're t-shirts, right? And they blend in with everyday life, yet they still state, what they are and what they do. But it's everyday wear. So that's kind of the concept that we take with it, right? You can use that as an example and apply it even to the philosophy. You're looking at the concept behind it. So Jedi robes, but what did Jedi robes represent? Okay, how do we fulfill that in everyday life? That is kind of how we grow from the Star Wars Jedi into everyday Jedi. Here's the concept. Excellent. What's the idea behind the concept? Okay, how can I apply that to my everyday life? There is no emotion, there's peace. Excellent. There's the concept. What's the idea behind the concept? All right, figure that out. What's the idea behind there is no emotion, there's peace? Now, how can you apply that in your everyday life? What ways can you use that in your everyday life? And what tools, what tools and techniques can help you apply that in your everyday life? Meditation, maybe, mediation, conflict resolution lessons, maybe, things of that nature. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. What is the idea behind that? Okay. What is the idea behind that? And then how can you apply that in your everyday life? So we look at and this is why the Jedi Code is still prevalent in the Jedi community today. Yes, it's a Star Wars invention, inspired by the Heart Sutra, but or at least the wording is, but you take the concept and it's really inspired by Empire Strikes Back and Yoda's like quotes in that movie. But so you take those two motivations, you get the Jedi Code, but then you can look at what's the idea behind it, and how can we apply that to everyday life? After you do that, though, there is kind of a step. Maybe I missed a step, but after you figure out how you can apply it to everyday life, and after you do, you have to examine, is this beneficial? Is this useful? Is this a positive influence and addition to my life? If the answer is yes, we keep it and we move forward, right? So again, there is no emotion, there's peace. Idea behind it. How can you apply it to everyday life, right? And then after you have, or after you're in the process, the experience of that, is it beneficial? Is it positive? Is it useful? Again, yes. All right, excellent. Moving on. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. What is the idea behind that? How can we apply that concept into our everyday lives? What are the tools and things that we can use to help apply that to our everyday lives? And is it positive? Is it beneficial? Is it useful? Okay, excellent. Moving on, right? So you just go through the entire process of Star Wars. And it's actually a very long and involved thing. It's why it's taken a long time for the community to develop into the area it is now. It wasn't always where we are at now. Where you are, if you're new, where you are, that's where we were in 1999. Okay, let's forget about 1995 up to 1999, right? That was all just pure, I don't know, making it up as we go, right? But in 1999, if you're brand new, or if you can remember when you were brand new, that's where we were at in 1999. And we were still trying to figure out the puzzle pieces and also figure out, is this beneficial? Well, now you jump forward, 16 years, 17 years almost. And we've had that time to look at this and look back at those experiences and be like, yes, this was beneficial. Not just to me, but to this Jedi, this Jedi, this Jedi, this Jedi, this column of people who found it beneficial, but no longer wanted to be part of the Jedi community, or no longer felt the Jedi name was applicable. It's just some people move on from the label, and that's fine, but they still found the concepts and ideas beneficial. So we have this plethora of experience to look at and determine, okay, what do we move forward with? And it's why, while force powers are still kind of talked about in certain circles, there is not the focus that there once was. There used to be a very, very, very high-end focus on force powers, developing force powers. And it used to kind of be a requirement in training and things like that. There was a lot of people claiming telekinesis and really, really out there force powers. And now that that focus is more shifted, force powers is more shifted to things that have to do with energy and energy work and kind of going more in that direction. But the emphasis is a lot less. And there is a lot more focus on being a Jedi is how you live your everyday life. Okay, it's not going to be found in robes, it's not found in lightsabers, and it's not found in force powers. Because we can look at, and this applies to Star Wars fiction. You can look at Star Wars and you can look at the Jedi Knights, but then you see that there's several other Force traditions. You can get into it, and there's several other Force traditions that existed in Star Wars that had lightsabers, that had robes, and that had force powers. Some had all three, some had two of the three, any way you want to go, but they weren't Jedi, right? If those three were the defining factor, then Sith would be Jedi. But they're not. Why? Philosophy. It's a presentation of how you live, what your ethics are guided by, what your actions and reactions are guided by. That's kind of the important part, right? We're judged not by words, but by actions, and kind of what drives our actions. So philosophy is important. How you live is important. That's going to be your defining trait, and that's as true for fictional Jedi Knights as it is for us. So overall, Star Wars has its necessity, obviously, right? We are inspired by it. We definitely look to it. We definitely look at it, dig into it, and kind of see what does apply and what doesn't apply. And it, because it comes from a fictional source, which is inspired by several other sources, you kind of you're getting this much more broader view of things. You're going to the buffet of various philosophies, ideas, practices, techniques, spiritual beliefs, and so on. And you're kind of getting to try a little bit everything. And eventually you make your own plate. Eventually you make something that is unique to yourself. And the Jedi has become unique unto itself in that buffet style. But Star Wars is something that's always there, and it's something we'll always look to, and it's something that is a core part of our path, but it's not necessarily our Bible. It's not something that is written in stone that we are beholden to. If the Jedi Code said a Jedi feels no emotion, they only feel peace, right? If it actually said it, it wouldn't have lasted as long as it has, right? It wouldn't have survived. It would be something that maybe we look at and can kind of be like, okay, what's wrong with this, right? We can use this as, why doesn't this work? Why isn't this? But that's not what it says. But it's still something we would look at. Just as when we see things in Star Wars which don't apply in real life. When we look at trials that require building a lightsaber, and a lot of those, if you notice, a lot of when Jedi build lightsabers, they're not actually building them. They're not touching them with their hands. It's meditation, sometimes for days on end, and the parts kind of are coming together, and it's a very deep force connection. And that is not something that we can currently impose upon Jedi students. I would, I definitely would not be able to pass that, But so but again, you look at it and you're like, well, what's the idea behind it? Okay, contemplation, concentration, the ability to kind of cut off and focus on the symbolism of Jedi and what it means, that you are the lightsaber, right? You are the blade, you are the light in the darkness, or however poetic you want to get with it, but yeah, so we look at the idea of Star Wars and the ideas kind of behind it, and we do look at what may or may not have inspired it. We do look at things like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. We do look at things such as Zen Buddhism or Taoism or Stoicism. We look at knightly orders such as the Hospitallers and things like that, to get an idea of where the inspiration came from. But mostly, it's not even really a necessity, but I won't get into that later. It's just good. It's good stuff to know. And it's good stuff to look into. But certainly, we look at the source material and then we dissect it. And that's basically all it is. So Star Wars is a misconception in the fact that, no, you're not going to be running around fighting Sith with force powers and having epic lightsaber battles. You're probably not going to save the galaxy. Can't say for sure. Who knows? Maybe you will, but that's probably not going to happen. So you can dial back the expectation of adventure and excitement. There's a lot of studying. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of philosophical discussions. There's practices and time management and prioritizing that you have to do. There are daily practices you have to follow. Some you may not like. You may not like the physical activity, but you're gonna have to do it. You may not particularly enjoy meditation. You're gonna have to do it. Though I think you should always enjoy these things. I think if you're not enjoying them, it's just a matter of finding them. But we'll cover all that as we get to them, because meditation and physical fitness and all that is in the Jedi Circle. So we will get to all that stuff. And hopefully find a way to make it fun. But yeah, it's something we look at. It is definitely our inspiration, but it's not something that we adhere to the letter. We follow the spirit of what is being taught. We follow the spirit of the Jedi Knights, and we live by that. And that's what makes us Jedi in everyday lives. It's, you know, it is what it is. We do live the Jedi lifestyle, you know, but it does require change and translation from the fictional universe into our own. There is going to be differences. This should go without saying, but you know, I know when I first entered the community, I was definitely looking for my Yoda, and it can be frustrating or disappointing when you do realize, okay, that's not quite how it works. These days, you do have great Jedi mentors that are out there. Back in 95, 97, 99, you really didn't, but these days you do. So you're lucky. There's a lot of great material out there. There's a lot of great lessons, a lot of great resources at your disposal, and a lot of great mentors that will gladly give their time to. You know, they're not going to be Yoda. They're not going to be Qui-Gon. They're not going to be Obi-Wan. So don't go expecting too much. But certainly they can be someone there who helps you through your Jedi journey, and helps you live your life as a Jedi, which is a little bit different than Star Wars. So it is a misconception. We are not the Jedi Knights from Star Wars, but certainly it has its place, and that wraps that up. I have no idea how long I've been rambling on that, but hopefully that made sense, and hopefully it wasn't too boring. And another video later on tonight, I believe, or it might be tomorrow, who knows, but 2 videos 1 week. We'll catch back up and get this done. All right, thanks for watching, guys. May the Force be with you.